there was a plea that was filed in the Supreme Court seeking an urgent stay on the next round of sale of electoral bonds. The Supreme Court is yet to pass an order. It's reserved its judgment. And there was quite a bit of questioning that happened during this hearing, and those details I'll bring to you over the next 1 hour. But what was interesting is that the Election Commission, that so far in the past has written some very strongly worded notes to the government opposing the electoral bonds, that Election Commission has seemed to have softened its stand. So earlier in 2017, when electoral bonds were being introduced and discussed and planned, the Election Commission had said that this is a retrograde step. Earlier in 2017, the same Election Commission had said that the electoral bonds will allow black money into the system because there is anonymity on who the donor is. And so that will become a big problem. You're not disclosing to anybody where the money is coming from. In 2019, the Election Commission essentially reiterated this. But today, the Election Commission said that the electoral bonds are one step forward, but we do want more transparency. So while EC continues to bat for more transparency for electoral bonds, it also says there is no need for any kind of interim stay on the sale of this instrument. I don't understand that. We're going to talk about it now. Let's say good evening to the panelists who are joining us on this conversation. Aman Sinha, spokesperson for the BJP and senior advocate with the Supreme Court. Kawai Satyan, spokesperson for the AIADMK. Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, former CEC, joins me this evening. Biswajit Dev, spokesperson for TMC and a senior advocate. First up, let me go across to Dr. Vipul Mudgal, the trustee with the ADR and director for Common Cause. ADR is actually the one that's gone to Supreme Court seeking this stay. Because obviously, Mr. Mudgal, you're already fighting a case. The Supreme Court is already hearing the larger issue of electoral bonds. Yet, the sale of these bonds and raising the money continues.
I think it's very, very unfortunate that a case of this magnitude has not been heard for such a long time. I mean, it is a pity. There's no other word. You know, we have had all kinds of debatable, other matters to be discussed in Supreme Court, but this somehow did not, merit any discussion. In fact, we were surprised. Very often it was said that, an IA should be filed or we should write to the Supreme Court, etc., etc. But we are happy that at least it is being discussed. I don't think the government is going to change its stand. I don't think the way the Election Commission is now coming around to supporting the government, I see this is a very, very bleak thing. But at the same time, I think it is very important in a country like India for this issue to be discussed. So I thank Supreme Court that at least an occasion has come that you guys and all of us are discussing it. This is definitely the most regressive step, most regressive single policy to be adopted in the last 73, 75 years. There is no question about it. Nothing has been worse than this, which is unconstitutional, undemocratic, and which goes against the sovereignty of the country and which compromises the national security. It goes much beyond elections. Believe me, elections is a small part of it. This will change the body politic of India. And that is why we are urging that look at all the pros and cons. Just listen to everybody. And I believe personally that if BJP had been in the opposition and if Congress had brought this, then BJP would have done a very good job of at least opposing and bringing it to the fore. But now, unfortunately, they are the ruling party and the opposition party is taking no interest. So I think we are unfortunate in that sense.
Okay. In fact, I completely agree with the concerns that you've raised. I feel that this is a very, very detrimental tool in our democracy, where when we were fighting to bring about clean money and clean politics, this step actually just creates a system where we don't know what's going on. And Dr. Reswai Qureshi, we've had conversations about this in the past. When we found out about the letters that the EC had written earlier, Dr. Qureshi, we spoke about this issue. We also know that the Reserve Bank of India, governor at that point of time, had raised this issue. Do you now see some amount of change in the stand, and why would that be? Is it because we've now seen electoral bonds being used and EC doesn't believe it's such a big problem?
I support every single word spoken by Mr. Mudgal. Those are exactly the concerns, and in fact, the Election Commission changing its stand now is interesting, but not surprising at all. We thought this was coming. And, I don't know. And secondly, I also share his concern that the Supreme Court took full 3 years to deal with such an important subject of electoral democracy, which is central to functioning of democracy. But anyway, better late than never. I hope the outcome is as expected, and we'll wait and see.
Qureshi, what explains this? And I'm trying to understand this argument then, where we say on one hand that yes, there is a need for transparency, but we don't believe that we should stop the sale of this or stop the usage of this tool. Until and unless we fix it, make it more transparent, why use it?
I don't know. In fact, that is what came to me also as a surprise. Exactly what do they mean by it? Now, they had opposed it very strongly in 2017, and that was the stand in 2019 as well. Now, suddenly, nothing wrong with this. They seem to be a very fine scheme. What has led to this change of thinking? They know better.
Fair enough. Very difficult to really, of course, guess what really went on there for this change in stand by the Election Commission. But I must say, I am a little disappointed with what has been said. Let me tell our viewers that in the first round, when this government was discussing and planning and seeking, responses and feedback from various departments, which is what happens when a policy is made. And so you seek a response from Election Commission, you seek a response from Reserve Bank of India in such a matter, you seek a response from the Law Commission, and when those responses came in, the Election Commission very clearly said that the fact that there is an anonymity attached to the donor does not bode well with the entire system. What if people start setting up shell companies and through those shell companies route unlimited money? Because now there is no cap in how much you can actually donate. So you can route unlimited money, and the only entities who would, perhaps if they want to find out, who would know about it is either the bank, or if income tax decides to look into those transactions, or so essentially the government, but not the Election Commission, and not you and I as the voter, and definitely not any other political party. Would that be correct, Dr. Qureshi?
Yeah, exactly. But I would like to remind you of the perspective where this was introduced through the budget speech in 2017.
Yes.
Now, the first three sentences of the finance minister were extremely significant. The first one was that without transparency of political funding, free and fair elections are not possible. It was music to our ears. His second sentence, that in the last 70 years, we have failed to achieve that. This also was a correct statement. So we were expecting that the third sentence would be that now that we are going to introduce transparency. What actually, the third sentence actually killed whatever transparency then existed. And what was the transparency then? Every donation of more than 20,000 was reported to the Election Commission of India. And the now even 20 crores or 200 crores, who has given to whom, we do not know. And it was done in the name of the donors wanting secrecy. Now, donors wanting secrecy, the reasons will be obvious, that they want their quid pro quo to be hidden. pitted against the people wanting transparency. Now, the finance minister's opening statement itself was without transparency of political funding, free and fair elections are not possible. Now, obviously, with transparency gone, should we say that free and fair elections are not happening now, or are not possible? Now, secondly, it was not just electoral bond, but three things happened at the same time. One, the bond was the bond. Secondly, there used to be a cap on donations of 7.5% of your 3 years profit.
Yes.
Now that cap was removed altogether, which means the company can donate 100% of its profit.
Yes.
Which means the companies now can exist to run the government. Now the crony capitalism has been legalized and legitimized by such a simple step.
Yes.
Secondly, and even more dangerous, mind you, FCRA Act was amended with the retrospective effect of 42 years that foreign donations, if you and I get $100 from your cousin from London, you will be in jail. But the 1 million and 10 million pounds and dollars can come from abroad for a political party that has been legitimized. Now,
Yes.
foreign money coming into India's election, is they interfering in our election? The fact that foreign powers have interest in interfering in elections, and the extreme case is Russia influencing American elections. So if it can happen there, it can happen here. And that has now been taken away, whether it is foreign money or drug money or mafia money,
Absolutely.
what money. You know, it's a shame. It's a shame that we are doing such things and playing such games with the people of
Absolutely.
India.
So let me. You're very right, and in just a bit, I will take this point forward about the foreign money with Vipul. But first up, I want to bring in some of our political representatives as well. Kovai, let's start with you. And I started off this conversation by saying that the EC has already seized cash, liquor, drugs, and several other contraband, all with dirty money worth 330 crores, much more than all of 2016 that they seized. Now, would you agree that if it is about cleanup and removing dirty money, that hasn't happened?
Yeah, Tanvi, what you are taking today as a topic is opening the Pandora box, which gives scopes for many people in their area of expertise and domain. But prima facie, I just want to stick to the basics. Since the topic is all about electoral bonds, and people in the eminent personalities in the panel are talking about the pros and cons and the loopholes in electoral bonds. But I want to take a step back and say electoral bonds is about taking public funding. So, in the first chance, is what we are looking at, then it is easier for us to build a debate on the same. If public funding is the answer, and we say yes, public funding can be taken, and the means to take it is electoral bonds, then it makes more apt sense for us to discuss the pros and cons of issuing electoral bonds. If we say no, public funding is not the answer, let us stick only to corporates, we as political representatives has to face the air from the people that any corporate that funds us will be seen as the extended arm of the corporates when voted to power. So the question here lies is how legitimate the inflow of the cash and the money, and how does the system is going to accommodate the same. While I agree with Mr. Qureshi on certain statements he made, it is not new in democracies. Nations, democracy like Croatia, Sweden, Serbia, Georgia, Germany, Israel take public funding.
No,
Yes,
but how are you saying that this is a better method of public funding than what we had? Earlier, we used to go and gather money, even 2 rupees or 20,000 rupees and 2 lakh rupees could be given. Now, if you actually look at the statistics, and maybe Vipul has those statistics, you will see that a large chunk of money is not public individuals giving this money.
No, absolutely.
Tanvi, my point I want to drive is: are we prepared? Are we here to listen to the answer that yes, we are okay to receive public funding?
Okay.
And the mechanism to do that is what electoral bonds is all about. Are we convinced on that particular parameter?
Okay.
If we are convinced, yes, definitely it makes a lot of weightage. To add the points what the panelists said, yes, there has to be better transparency, that it has to be legitimate money, and there has to be responsibility and onus, and no political party can shun away from this responsibility, when the party which I represent also says the same thing. Yes, we are for accountability, we are for transparency. Each and every penny what we receive, yes, we are accountable.
Okay. Yes, sir. Dr. Vipul Mudgal, if you can just come in here before we go across to TMC.
Sure. I was just adding a small point. I was saying that there was recently this international consortium for investigative journalists.
Yeah.
They had done some very basic work on what kind of shell companies are going on around the Panama Papers, and we saw that in just one small place called Panama, there were about 7,85,000 different entities which were spread around 200 countries and geographies and territories. So you see the scale of the problem is huge. There are like 500 different offshore companies which operate only in the form of trusts and foundations. So this is a great case actually, where the shell companies can be formed, and those companies can have their Indian subsidiaries, and they can actually make it a open playground for foreign companies into Indian elections. I mean, it's extremely dangerous. One thing that Dr. Qureshi said, I thought I'll add one small point. It's not just 100% of the profits of a company. Even a loss-making company can give money to the political party, which is so dangerous. Why would a loss-making company pay money to anybody? You don't have any disposable surplus, and you are giving it of all the people to political parties. You would give it only if you wanted to cut a deal.
Exactly. Absolutely, absolutely. Those were the very, very concerning, changes that were brought in. And again, I will reiterate, it's disappointing that the Election Commission says, well, go on with it. We'll figure out the transparency bit as we go along with this case that's now gone on for a couple of years. But let me go across to the TMC representative who's patiently heard everybody out, Biswajit Deb. When it comes to cleanup of politics and political funding, is this helping?
Good evening. I was, in fact, very mindfully hearing Mr. Mudgal, and I fully agree with what he was saying. And first of all, I would like to say that the RBI governor, when this scheme was first introduced in the year 2017, the governor of the Reserve Bank of India and the Election Commission also made a strong note against this particular scheme, and they objected to it. The reason behind it is this, that illegal money and especially foreign funds will be pumped in, and the entire system of election, the entire system will be in a problem. And that is what exactly we are seeing now. You see, we can see horse trading going on. I would really come to the political issues now. We can see the horse tradings which are going on in different states. It all happened post 2017. We have never seen such type of elections. We have never seen such type of governments being formed where the ruling party even did not have a majority. And I would like to say categorically that it is this particular system has only helped the ruling party. And today, I would again like to repeat that nowhere in the world this particular system exists. And this has been a major cause of illegal money, foreign money, being pumped into the political parties where you cannot raise any question. The only agencies who can look into it are the income tax or the other law enforcement agencies, which are all under the control of the government. So it's a very alarming situation, and I really expect that the Supreme Court, after hearing this matter, will really dispose of this particular issue in an appropriate manner, and we look forward for that particular day when this issue will be properly dealt by the Honorable Supreme Court.
Well, and I don't know when that will be and how many rounds of state elections would have happened by then. And that also, if indeed the Supreme Court does decide differently on what the status is right now. But Mr. Vipul Mudgal, I was also going through some of the details of the conversation that happened during the hearing, where the Chief Justice of India, I understand, also raised apprehensions of what if this is terror money coming in from terror groups funding these political parties, to which the government council said that, well, you know, there is a eligibility criteria as to which political parties or how much strength or size can actually get this money. But there is merit to that argument, and it's not just terror money, but like Dr. Qureshi was saying, any vested party abroad as well wanting to channelize this money, and we'll never know.
No, absolutely. I think that's a valid concern. And court is also, you know, they are not above common sense. They are also human beings like us. They are also watching what is going on in Mumbai. There is an accusation that one political party wanted to collect 100 crores by browbeating some, restaurants and places like that. It may be completely wrong. You know, the accusation may be wrong, but the fact is right that political parties need so much money that this kind of money cannot come by fair dealings, by just good work. You know, they can only come if you are cutting deals. So I think the observations that the Supreme Court made were very correct, and I think their concerns, they also showed concern when Mr. Prashant Bhushan mentioned it to the Chief Justice that, sir, this is crying for your attention, etc., etc. So, I think the observations have been very good, but I'll be very keen to see the actual order. Because what happens finally, the as they say that the test of pudding is in the eating. So I think we would know what kind of exact order they are going to give. Are they going to stop it or not?
And may I ask just one question again, because you went with this plea, an urgent plea, since the sale of bonds is going to happen now, in the coming week, and the window will be open for 10 days. For our viewers to understand, electoral bonds are sold in specific time windows. And in that time period, you have to go to one of the branches, State Bank branches, where the bond form is available, fill it up, and then in the coming months, the political parties to whom you've donated the money need to encash it with that certificate. But aren't there definitions, and wasn't there a strategy in place, Mr. Vipul Mudgal, or as to when can you sell these bonds? We are actually seeing it happen in the middle of a polling season.
Yeah, I know that was not the idea at all. And what is surprising is that the government made certain rules. You made the rules and you are disobeying those rules. The windows were not supposed to be opened even before the last set of elections in Karnataka and Rajasthan and many other places. So they opened, and the request apparently in this case came from the Prime Minister's office. So I think there's a very strange kind of situation. Here is a political party which is very strong, which is also liked by the people. A large number of people are not only voters, they are also supporters. It has a brute majority inside parliament, and the deep pockets are supporting the party anyway. And the ADR, the statistics which we release every now and then has shown clearly that 93% of all the donations have gone to the ruling party anyway. So there is no compulsion for the ruling party to go so aggressively for black money to be injected, foreign money to be injected, for violating all the norms of democracy, etc. I don't know what is wrong with them. What is going on? All these windows that you're talking about have been already violated. So yeah. And how many more will be violated? We don't know. The government has been lying. The ministers have been misinforming parliament, and then they are making all kinds of jalebis around things and saying that no, convoluted, very long arguments the bureaucrats are giving, that actually the minister did not mean this, but he meant that. And we remember the Huffington Post did a series of stories. Yeah. Mr. Nitin Sethi did a series of stories where, the way the bonds are coming, the way the opposition doesn't know, the public does not know, but the banks know, and the government has a way of knowing. So I think this is a bizarre situation. Why are we doing this? What is the compulsion?
Well, I would have Aman Sinha joining us any minute now, who got stuck because of a personal emergency, and then we're going to ask Aman Sinha of the BJP that question. But I want to go back to our other two political representatives. And Mr. Biswajit Deb, could one of the reasons that TMC doesn't raise this issue anymore be that you yourself are now getting a significant part of your funding from electoral bonds? Your own party's annual report suggests for 2019-2020 that of the 143 crores that you managed to raise, 100 crores actually came from electoral bonds.
Well, that's peanuts. That's peanut compared to what BJP has raised from these electoral bonds. So this is not a question where we have not raised any objection. We are raising objection from the very beginning on this particular issue, because we are repeatedly saying that we need transparency as far as these electoral bonds are concerned. And the level of money, the amount of money, the huge amount being pumped in, not only from inside of the country, but also the foreign funds and the funds which are really questionable, needs to be really inquired into properly. And that's why I said that let's wait and let's see ultimately how this matter is disposed of by the Supreme Court of India. We are eagerly waiting for that.
No, I understand that you're eagerly waiting for it, but it's just convenient that political parties have now just put the onus on the Supreme Court rather than taking a clearer, harder stance on it, perhaps because they've also realized the benefits of it. 93% of the overall funds may have gone to the BJP, but the others will quickly learn, just that they learned the art of use of social media, Kovai, from BJP, who were pioneers of that strategy at one point of time. Let me come back to the point that you made about public funding. Now, that's the system we followed even before this. Anybody was, could have donated to parties even before this. So where is this change or the differentiation that you are talking about, and has it really benefited your party?
No. If you go by the stat and records, we have not raised much through electoral bonds. All our money that flowed in as donations from our party cadres, which has been well documented and recorded. I think my opposition, probably they had 93% of their money raised through electoral bonds. The point which I wanted to emphasize and make here is there needs to be a transparency is what everybody is looking forward, and we are no exception to the same. And law of the land is same for everybody. When the eminent panelist here wants to point out that this needs larger transparency, we are also of the same opinion. Yes, there has to be larger transparency and there has to be greater accountability of how the funds is being used. If you look at countries like UK, Australia and USA, there are competent authority which actually monitors the same. So the ideal way to take it forward is, if people say yes, electoral bonds can be there, public funding is agreed, it can be raised, but let's put these kinds of parameters and checkpoints in place so that it brings in more transparency and infuses confidence. Not by terming our own hypothesis that it's all black money that is flowing in, it's all illicit money that's flowing. A party cadre who works for the party would be willing to donate 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees of his hard-earned money. But I cannot term it as a black money. I cannot call it as illegitimate money.
No,
just because there is an accountability question which has been raised. So that's not in his purview, that's not in his head. That's in the purview of the gamut of the central government as well as the political parties to bring in transparency. And tell me which political party is saying that no, we don't want to be transparent. And yes, there is a P&L account that has been maintained. Whenever it has been asked,
but the P&L account doesn't tell me, Kovai, who gave you that money. Even if it was just 6 crore for the AIDMK last year, I still don't know who gave it to you.
It is there. Anybody, even in a cadre, our party is such that any cadre has the rights to go and verify the accounts. It is open. So the point I was trying to make is...
No, but I will never know if the monies come from electoral bonds, who gave it to you. That is as per rules. It's not even if you want to reveal it, you wouldn't officially know it. Unofficially, you may know who gave it to you, but officially you won't. Let me take that point about transparency to Aman Sinha. Even the Election Commission now, as it says, let the electoral bond sale continue, in court again has said that we need more transparency in electoral bonds, Aman.
Tanvi, the Supreme Court is seized of that issue, and I'm sure after factoring in all the arguments, they would come out with a final judgment on this. Certainly, the government and the Election Commission of India and all parties are going to abide by it, because today the matter is at an interim stage only, and therefore let us await the final outcome. However, nobody can take away from the fact, Tanvi, that electoral bonds is a substantial move ahead, from the olden days of cash which was in free flow during the election time. So therefore, it's a major improvement from where we were earlier. And thus, Tanvi, I think this is something which all of us should be welcoming. As far as the issue of transparency is concerned, uh, many a times people also have, reservations in disclosing their political affiliations, etc., and for their own very good or bad reasons, whatever. And there is a possible, apprehension of being victimized, etc. So those issues are also there, but I'm sure courts will factor in all the arguments and come to a final decision. Right now, it is at an interim stage, and today also there were prayers for staying the issuance of electoral bonds, which is starting from 1st of April, which the court has declined to do.
But why is the government repeatedly changing the rules of this game now, Aman? When this policy and when this scheme was actually introduced, we were told that there will be only certain time periods in a year when these bonds would go on sale and contributions could be made that the parties could later on encash. Now we are actually, then we saw that the dates are being changed. They are being timed to around the election season. Then we saw that even if the window is shut, some of the donations are being accepted and those changes were being allowed by the government. Now in the middle of the election season as well, we are seeing a sale that will open up. Aren't we changing the rules of the game as it benefits us without any accountability about it?
No, Tanvi, foremost, whenever this window is opened and electoral bonds are issued, it is not restricted to one party or grouping or something of that sort. It is there for all the parties. Therefore, rules of the game are fair for one and all political parties. Secondly, this is still an evolving process, and I do not feel that government is in violation of any statutory provisions or any rules which have been prescribed under the Representation of People's Act. So therefore, I believe the government is very much entitled, and the issuing authorities are very much entitled to issue these bonds, and they are not in contravention of any rules. The rules of the game, as you stated, are similar and fair for all the parties. Therefore, I do not see any impropriety on that account. And as I mentioned to you, Tanvi, this institution is still evolving, and therefore the authorities also have to be mindful of that and keep evolving as the situation changes and evolves.
Okay, Dr. Qureshi, the one aspect that I did want to, and you touched upon it, in your opening comments, is the point about foreign funding. Why is it that, up till 2016, for the 30 years preceding that, it wasn't allowed for political parties, that we didn't want political money to come in at all. And then we saw this change come about with retrospective effect.
Yeah, because the two major political parties who have been in power, in and out of power, both of them were found guilty of having received foreign money. Now, to legalize what they had done in the past, they brought in this amendment with 42 years of a retrospective effect, making it legal. So, which is also one reason you asked why is it that the opposition is quiet. Maybe it's, all different parties are benefiting from the same kind of confusion. So, but foreign funding being allowed, as I said, that you and I cannot accept even $10. Try and put the $10 in your bank and you're in jail for sure. Well, how come for the political party foreign funding is allowed? And with the electoral bonds coming in and transparency totally gone for a six, it creates also kind of suspicion. Which foreign power is contributing money to election funds in India? We would like to know. And the fact that foreign powers do interfere in each other's election has been visible to us for the last few years, even in the case of the greatest democracy in the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the other thing about public funding which was raised, I think AIDMK candidate, although he raised a good point, but he was confusing it with the electoral bond. The electoral bond and the public funding have nothing to do with each other. In fact, they are mutually exclusive. We would like public funding and electoral bonds abolished. Electoral bonds come not from the public fund. They come from the private companies, and we would like all donations from private companies to be banned totally. And government of India, the public money should be given to the political parties by check with dignity, and no the allegation of corruption or anything. So that is the way forward, I think.
In fact, when the current government brought in the first set of rules, and then when they said that the lower limit for anonymous cash donations has been brought down from 20,000 rupees to 2,000 rupees, everybody welcomed that step. Because yes, even if you're giving 2 rupees or 2,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees, it should be clear and transparent what money is coming from where. And a lot of regional parties actually thrived in that earlier system where we wouldn't know where the money is coming from, but they're picking it up from everywhere and doing it anonymously. But then the whole game changed when you brought in the electoral bonds. And Vipul Mudgal, that's the other case that also was being fought, by association about two parties, the Congress and the BJP, who had been caught with foreign funding in 2003 and 4. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, you're absolutely right. I think this was the completely egregious. The way the two parties were going around collecting money from foreign, knowing full well, their responsibilities, and knowing that they can be completely debarred from fighting any future elections. The recognition of the political party can go. It was like the most breathtaking kind of violation possible, but they did it. And then they just amended things left, right and center. In fact, they did it first time. They made a retrospective amendment which surprisingly was wrong. Then they went again and they said that we will do it again, and they did it again. So it's when people say that this is for transparency, it's like saying, and it's for good for the people, it's like saying, I'll break your legs, crush your legs, and it'll be good for you. And I'll tell you how it will be good for you in future. The lies that are going around are absolutely unbelievable. How can educated people, good people, they've been, I'm sure in the ruling party, there are a lot of very good people. They must be telling each other privately that we don't have to do this. Because if somebody else comes, this government has been more concerned about national security than any other government. The sovereignty of the country. And now you are making it a playground for foreign companies. The way the shell companies operate all over the world. It's become so much easier for them to transfer money in just one go. So I think, for the political parties, I would say two things. That one, political parties in India are the most unaccountable entities with the kind of powers they wield, and second, they're, rather than looking up to the court and saying that court will hear all sides, what stopped you from hearing all sides in parliament? There should have been a deliberation, discussion. There should have been all kinds of proactive participation of all stakeholders and people, and then the country would have come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Now we are looking up to the courts. This is not the right thing. And in fact, courts also have a problem, that how much of the the problems of the country the courts are going to settle.
Yes.
This is a legislative domain. The legislation legislation should come about. It's quite another thing that it also happens to be unconstitutional according to us and undemocratic.
Yes,
So
but
I think-
and I'm not saying specifically in this case, but often even the courts would be hesitant to step into the, obviously the legislative domain. That's not their domain. That's what the government and the parliament really is for. And they're supposed to be making laws. But more and more, increasingly, more and more of these cases are now landing up in courts. But Aman Sinha, this is a fair point to explain to us. You know, NGOs can be villains to get foreign money. Farmers can become villains to when they get foreign money. Everybody and anybody can become a villain for foreign money, except the political parties who can do so and do so secretly.
No, Tanvi, I do not feel that the law provides for it, and certainly the electoral bonds also. If anybody is misusing anything, then obviously the legal consequences will follow. But let me say that no kind of foreign funding is permitted to political parties, and if somewhere there is system is being distorted.
No, it's legitimately legally allowed, Aman. That is the change that your government brought in via the finance bill. You made it possible for foreign entities to donate via electoral bonds, a tool which is anonymous. And you also changed the rules to say retrospectively since the 1980s, in case you get caught someday doing it earlier.
Tanvi, give me a minute.
Debate.
So, Tanvi, all those issues the Supreme Court will examine, and therefore the matter is pending before Supreme Court. Let us await the final judgment of the Supreme Court. All these arguments have been made before the Supreme Court, and therefore I would reserve my comment on that, because it is abundantly clear that the political parties are also working within the four corners and parameters of law. And wherever they also commit any improprieties or errors, certainly the law will also take its course. So other legal aspects of the matter, the Supreme Court will examine and adjudicate. Till that time, that is in grey area, and we should await the judgment of the Supreme Court.
Okay, Dr. Qureshi wanted to come in. Go ahead, please.
So I was saying that the FCRA Act was amended. It
Yes.
didn't come through the package of the electoral bond and the finance bill. FCRA Act was amended with retrospective effect, retrospective by 42 years, so that the previous donations also which had come, because the High Court of Delhi had discovered that both parties, two major parties in question, had been guilty of receiving foreign money. To legalize that, they went back 42 years.
And I will tell you how, despite the fact that some of the opposition parties today may want to say, oh, it's all wrong and this is the BJP who's doing it, they're all secretly enjoying it, they're all secretly glad about it, including the Congress party, because not only did the BJP benefit from the retrospective amendment, even the Congress party did. Back in the time when foreign funding was not allowed for political parties, they got it. And when this truth came out, and when this truth reached the court, that's when it was decided to change the law and make it applicable till up to 40 years back in time. And that was passed in the parliament. And no party uttered a word about it. Completely out of time. I am going to thank all of the panelists for joining us and sharing their insights with us. Viewers, I will repeat this for you one more time. Electoral bonds is a tool that is being used to enable large corporations, industrial organizations, corporates with deep pockets to give money to political parties, to do it secretly so that you and I will never know, neither will the Election Commission know about it. And they can do it in an unlimited fashion, however money they want. There is no cap on it anymore. A series of rules across various laws were changed to create this structure. The court case is on. This tool of political funding was challenged in the Supreme Court a long time ago, and the Supreme Court is yet to take a decision on it. But unfortunately, this tool continues to be used, and the promise that it will clean up it will make it very clear and digitize the entire transaction so that no black money comes into the system. All of that doesn't seem to be working, because while some parties are showing up large amount of money, one look at what the EC has seized will tell you we are breaking all records of dirty money versus the last round of state elections in 2016 in these very states. We've already broken those records, and we still have at least 6 weeks of election season to go. Think about that. Think about the dirty money that is still there in the system, while we are being told that this is a great tool to clean it all up. Completely out of time. Thank you for joining us.